A by-election, also known as a special election in the United States and the Philippines, or a bypoll in India, is an election used to fill an office that has become vacant between general elections. A vacancy may arise as a result of an incumbent dying or resigning, or when the incumbent becomes ineligible to continue in office, or when an election is invalidated by voting irregularities. In some cases, a vacancy may be filled without a by-election, or the office may be left vacant. The procedure for filling a vacant seat in the House of Commons of England was developed during the Reformation Parliament of the 16th century by Thomas Cromwell. Previously, a seat had remained empty upon the death of a member. Cromwell devised a new election that would be called by the king at a time of the king's choosing. This made it a simple matter to ensure the seat rewarded an ally of the crown. During the Cavalier Parliament of Charles II, which lasted 18 years, from 1661 to 1679, by-elections were the primary means by which new members entered the House of Commons. By-elections are held in most nations that elect their parliaments through single-member constituencies, whether with or without a runoff round. This includes most Commonwealth countries, such as the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia and Pakistan, as well as non-Commonwealth countries such as France. In the United States, these contests have been called special elections because they do not always occur on election day like regular congressional elections. Special elections are held when a seat in the House of Representatives, state legislature, or local legislature becomes vacant. At the federal level, the U.S. Constitution requires that vacancies in the House of Representatives be filled with a special election. In most cases where a vacancy is filled through a special election, a primary will also be held to determine which candidates will represent the major parties. When one seat in a proportional representation constituency becomes vacant, the consequences vary. For example, a by-election may be held to fill just the vacancy, or all the seats in the constituency could be contested in the by-election. Alternatives to holding a by-election include: for the Australian Senate, use the same method, except for Western Australia, which holds a recount of ballots to determine the new winner, with sitting members retaining their seats. Scotland and New Zealand still hold by-elections, despite having adopted the mixed-member proportional representation system, in which some members are chosen by party lists. In both countries, by-elections where voters elect their preferred candidate are only used to fill a vacancy in a constituency seat. For example, the death of Donald Dewar resulted in a by-election for the constituency of Glasgow Anniesland. If a vacancy arises from the death or resignation of a party list member, the next unelected candidate on the party list is offered the seat. If that candidate has died or declines the seat, it is offered to subsequent candidates on the list until one accepts the seat. For example, on the resignation of Darren Hughes in March 2011, Louisa Wall was elected after all the 5 candidates above her on the New Zealand Labour Party's list declined the seat. The Republic of Ireland holds by-elections despite electing members in multi-member constituencies by the single transferable vote. In the German Bundestag, which uses mixed-member proportional representation, by-elections were originally held upon the vacancy of any constituency seat, in the same manner as Scotland and New Zealand. This was changed in January 1953, since which time vacancies in constituency seats have been filled by the next candidate on the state list of the party which won the seat. In the same manner as vacancies among list seats, by-elections are now only held if a vacancy arises in a constituency seat and there is no associated party list with which to fill it. Typically, if the former member was elected as an independent, this is referred to as a substitute election. Since no independents have been elected to the Bundestag since the first legislative period, no such substitute election has ever taken place. By-elections can be crucial when the ruling party has only a small majority. In parliamentary systems, party discipline is often so strong that the governing party can only lose a vote of no confidence after losing enough by-elections for it to become a minority government. Examples are the Labour government of James Callaghan 1976 to 1979 and Conservative government of John Major 1992 to 1997. In the United States Senate, Scott Brown's election in 2010 ended the filibuster-proof supermajority formerly enjoyed by Democrats. By-elections can also be important if a minority party needs to gain one or more seats in order to gain official party status or the balance of power in a minority or coalition situation. For example, Andrea Horwath's win in